Good evening. Welcome to Larry Rinker Golf Live. Hope you're having a great weekend. It's Thursday. We got back-to-back weeks at Muirfield Village. Just played the first round today. My special guest today from the famous Stockton family, Dave Stockton Jr. How you doing, Dave?
Doing great, Larry. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm finally in Colorado, so I'm, excited to be in the Rockies in a little cooler weather. And I know you just finished a green. You just did some construction today down there in the desert. So talk about your back nine greens and some of the things you've been doing.
Yeah, since the lockdown got lifted, we've never been busier. So it's been fun finishing a job back in Great Falls, Virginia. Just finished one in Athens, Georgia, and just finishing up one here in San Diego. And so we're busy, that's for sure.
Well, I'm pulling up a video of, I think, your project today.
This one was just we videotaped this 2 days ago. A little 60-yard par three.
Wow.
Nothing like making your pool your water hazard.
Wow. So you got a bunker and flags, flip-flops working here.
Yeah, well, Jeff, who owns the house, we've become good friends, and he's like, "Is that really the what you wear?" I go, "Hey, I'm retired. I'm a flip-flop, Southern California. That's what you wear,
So what's the secret to having a good AstroTurf green, or something that's artificial?
Yeah, it's really in the installation and who's doing it. If you gotta, what my partner who owns the company, Dominic Nappy and Back Nine Greens, what he says, and it's a perfect word for him. He calls these guys craftsmen, and what they do, how they put the turf in, sand fill it, get it where you don't see seams, little to no grain. Where if you've got an uphill putt, it's a little slower. Downhill putt, it's quicker, just like a real green would be. And some of these greens are quite large, and you won't see any seams on them. And I see jobs all the time where, there's humps and bumps here, and it's not reacting like a real green. We take pride in doing it right the first time. And I have a blast, designing these and working with our crews to create some golf art for clients in their backyards.
Well, do you have any favorite greens that you try to replicate?
Well, we haven't really replicated any greens. We're gonna, it looks like we may be doing the 15th hole at Cypress Point for somebody. And we've done some stuff similar, but it's really, we want it to look like it was always meant to be there. So we take the land that we have and the contouring and everything and shape it and mold it into it looks like it was meant to be there from the beginning. And that's what we pride ourselves in.
Yeah, I think that's something Crenshaw and Core are doing a great job of. They're building these new
Yep.
golf courses. They look like they've been there 50 years when they're brand new.
Right.
There's a real
Yep.
art to doing that. And, it's pretty incredible. Well, Dave, you are from a great family, short game family. And I think you would agree with me that, when it comes to putting, there's 5 myths in putting. That you putt with your shoulders, you don't use your hands and wrists, you keep this triangle formed by your arms and your chest. It's a pendulum stroke or rhythm, and you got to aim perfectly. And I've heard you tell this story before on my SiriusXM radio show, and you talk about how your grandfather taught your father, and your father taught you how to aim kind of left center. And then if you hit the ball where you were aimed, you'd make it left center. If you pushed a little, you'd make it center. And if you pushed it a little more, you made it right center. And that's how you learned how to putt. And, there's a lot of great putters that were left aimers, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And, somewhere along the line, it got into trying to have everything. I think when all these different people trying to get everything perfect. And this game's not about being perfect. And there's so many different ways the ball can go in the hole. What we want to do is have the stroke repeat. And if we have a stroke that repeats under pressure, that is huge, because you can trust that, no matter what, I know that if I set up on my putt, I'm setting up a fraction left of my line, and I'm making the back of my left hand go right on through to my target line. There's no breakdown.
Right.
So it's just firm right on through. And it's kind of funny, you see the hottest guy out there right now, Bryson DeChambeau, and he's got the thing locked on his arm, and there's no releasing going on. It's just back and through, kind of like he took what Kuchar did and made it his own. Kuchar was the first one to do that, and ironically, he went to that method. No, he
wasn't. Johnny Miller did it. I had a sinker up my arm.
You're right. You guys were the trailblazers, and then Cooch came along and did it after.
He made it famous.
Sorry about that. Yes. Yeah, but it eliminates some of the the different things, the smaller muscles getting in the way, and that want to say the yip word or the twitch. If the big muscles are doing the job, it makes it a little bit simpler.
But one thing I love about what you guys talk about is you talk about how your trail hand, your right hand is your feel hand, and you're using your hand and wrist. And if I was going to toss a ball, even a short distance, I would use my hand and wrist. And so many people, I think, struggle with distance control because they're trying to lock that trail arm and hand up. Mm-hmm. They have no idea really what it's doing. One time it goes, the next time it's dead, and they just really struggle. Yeah. And yet, when you throw a baseball, no matter how hard or far or fast you throw it, you're still throwing it a direction, a distance, and a speed. And on a slower one, you still have this motion of a release and a throwing motion. And I really love that, what your family has talked about with, your trail hand is your feel hand. And I tell you, I can't believe how many people I've helped by just giving them permission to use their hands and wrists and let their trail hand have a little toss in it. You like to use the word roll, that they're going to roll the ball. But, I just think that's so key because so many people struggle with distance control.
Well, no doubt. And a lot of times it's, if you're a right-handed player, your right hand is your feel. They're right-hand dominant. Most of them. Most people that play right-handed are right-hand dominant. So their right hand will tend to be on the putter a little bit firmer and have a little more. When people are having distance control problems, typically it's not the left hand that's causing the distance control problems. It's the right. Right. And so when that happens, I'll have people hold the putter and I'll say, what's your grip pressure between both hands? And they'll say 50-50, or they'll say, God forbid, they say, firmer in the right hand. Because then I always use the analogy, that's your feel hand. So when you throw a dart, are you holding that dart really, really tight in your hand? Or is it really light? And everybody says, it's really light. Okay, well, that's giving you the most feel. So why wouldn't you putt that way too? You can hold it as firm as you want in the left hand. It's just going to go back and through. And if the right hand's on light, then it won't have as much control and getting in there and doing that right at the end, and the ball goes 8 feet by or whatever, and your speed's off.
How do you train distance control?
Well, one of the things that I work with people on is letting the putter go back. I see people that have distance control issues. They'll take it back short, and then the putter will finish really high with the right hand flipping it up. And that's caused by the putter going back a real short distance. And then they have to have this acceleration and the putter goes up. And it's no different than the low chip. The low chip and the putt are the same in our book and what we believe. Right. If you hit a low chip, what's that?
No, I agree.
If you take a low chip and you take it back short, you are going to flip it like there's no tomorrow with that right hand getting up there, and you're going to finish high for a low chip. Versus if you let that club go back, you can finish low where the club head's not coming up. And that's a huge key.
Well, here's a low chip where I'm just hitting like a trap draw.
Yep.
There.
And see how you finish low right there?
Yeah.
And your back of your left hand right there is going right down your target line.
Yeah. And then if I played it further back and lean the shaft even further forward, you can see the 81. So it's leaning 9 degrees forward to hit it lower.
Yep.
You can see I'm even trapping it more, and that sharp leading edge catches. Sometimes that happens because of the lean, but as long as I hit that ball first, I'm okay. But look at that.
Sure.
The club is nowhere near going past that left arm, maybe just a little bit at the end, you know?
Yep. Yep. But one of the keys to that is you let the club go back far enough.
Right.
You didn't, because if you don't, trust me, I always joke with people, your right hand knows that, oh, I get to be a part of this because you didn't take it back far enough, and then you knock it right over the green.
Well, and then when it comes to hitting the high shot, it's really just an underhanded toss with the right hand. Now the club's going to pass. Now that's a different release.
Yep.
So this club now is passing the left arm. You can see it. It's gone.
Yep.
And that's just passing right there.
Yep. That's the right, the high shot is the right palm going to the sky.
Yeah.
It's like I have people hold a ball in their right hand and throw it high, and their right palm finishes toward the sky. Where's the ball going? It's going up.
Well, really, Dave, you've got a low shot and a high shot, and then you kind of can improvise from there and do things. But I have this, like I had the 5 miss in putting, I have some miss here when it comes to hitting these pitch shots. And number one is you're controlling the distance with your pivot. No, you're controlling it with your right arm and hand. You hinge and hold the angle. No, you turn through the ball and you keep the club face open. Well, your feel is the right palm, but once the club passes the left arm, the toe rotates. You can see the club face slightly open to the plane, but it started open to the plane, didn't it? It started there. And it's really just a nice free orbit of the club head, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
It's just a nice light grip, and you're just tossing it. Here it is down the line. I'm doing this now with a putting grip, but it's really this high trajectory release. I call this a putt flop. But you can just see how simple this.
You're letting the club head do the work.
Yeah. And these rods represent the yellow is the target, and the orange is a slightly open stance, and then the blue is just a slightly open club face. So, you know, it's you don't have to get so wide open, do you?
Nope. No, it's just a little bit. And, you know, when I always let my eyes set my feet. I let my eyes set my feet because my eyes are my feel. So if I allow my eyes to set my body up where I'm comfortable, so I'm picturing the shot that I'm about to hit. So I hear people say all the time, I get over the ball and I'm just not comfortable. And it's almost the same thing every time where I say, okay, we'll set up, go through your routine to hit this shot. And they're staring at the ball and they're taking these short little looks out to the pin. And it's like, they don't want to look out there. They're not comfortable. Well, I wouldn't be either if I'm lining up looking at the ball the whole time. And you look out and your subconscious mind's going, oh man, I'm not lined up where I need to be. This is not good. So then we're fidgeting and moving around. Meanwhile, we have no chance to hit a good shot. Versus if you come in and you put that club down and look out and kind of visualize the shot you're going to hit, the height of it, where you want to land it, picturing a positive image of where that ball's about to go. Now you're setting yourself up for success.
So you really like your eyes looking at your target and in a pitch or chip shot where you want to land the ball, and then you set the club in, and then you set your feet.
Yeah, I'll come in with an open stance with my feet really close together. Same thing in putting. And I've done this since I was a little kid. It was kind of, I had to. I was a Stockton. That's what I had to do. And I always was taught, and this is what I teach, is enjoy the look. Enjoy the look to the hole. Enjoy the look out as you're setting up, because I'm picturing a positive image of where that ball's going. And That's huge. Being positive over a ball versus worrying about where you don't want it to go. It's a much better way to play the game.
Talk a little bit about intention and commitment, because I really believe that. I know you've worked with tour players that have perfect strokes that struggle, and you've worked with
Mm-hmm.
tour players that might not have, quote, the prettiest stroke, but can really putt. So it
Right.
really comes down to seeing and visualizing and committing to your line and trusting your read and trusting your aim, trusting your stroke, and trusting your feel for distance.
100%. I mean, and you see that at the highest level. You see it at the country club level. People that are at clubs, and if they're listening to this or watching this, there are guys at clubs that are really good players. They're scratch or they're plus or
Right.
they're 1 or 2 handicap. Those guys are confident over. They might have a weakness here or there, but they're confident over the ball. You go to the highest level, the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, European Tour. The guys that are playing the best, the women that are playing the best, they're walking in, they're fully committed. They're fully committed to what they're about to do. And they have a plan, and they're committed and sticking to it. And so
Right.
that's one of the biggest things in this game. And I battle with it now that I don't play as much, and I get up and I'm in between what I want to do on a shot. And and then I hit the shot and I'm like, you dummy. I mean, you used to do it on tour and you could get away with it sometimes because we practiced all the time. I don't practice as much now, so those errors happen a lot more if my mental focus isn't there. So it's all about that pre-shot, mental routine and having a routine that repeats. You not just in putting or chipping, but the whole game. Like have a routine that, okay, once you are locked in and you committed to the shots you want to hit, go through your routine and go. You walk in,
Right.
set up, hit it.
Yeah, I break the routine down into 3 parts. You got a pre-routine. What do you do before you walk in? You have a routine where you have so many practice strokes, so many looks. You hit the putt, and there's an outcome. And then we
Right.
have this post routine where we really judge how well we intended and committed, because that's really what matters. But I'm like you, I don't play that much, and I find myself over the ball making decisions I should have made before I even walked in. You got
Yep.
to get clear, crystal clear before you walk in, and then you're just green light, aren't you? Just walk
Mm-hmm.
in and let it go.
Yep. That's and part of why we don't do that on a consistent basis, and probably people that play at their regular clubs, is because they don't practice that much and that way. You
Right.
have to put in the practice in doing that. You can't go out. Most people go out and they'll go out on the range and they'll hit balls, and they'll hit it great on the range or however. And then they get on the golf course and now they're thinking and like, I was doing so good on the range. You hear people say, I'm great on the range. Well, you're great. Why are you great? Analyze that. Like you're just getting up and hitting shots. You're not setting yourself up for what you're going to do on the golf course. So it's funny. That's why that's why you see athletes in other sports and people in business that are tops in the business world. Oh, what do? They play golf. Why? Why do all these people play? Because it challenges them.
Totally. Totally. And it's just interesting how they just love that challenge. And golf is a big challenge, and it's something they're going to get. And the thing about it is, you and I both know it's like you get it, and you're playing great. You won on what's now called the Corn Ferry Tour a couple times. I mean, you played the tour for 10 years. You're playing great, and then all of a sudden, what happened?
Right. Yeah.
You got to
You blink and it's like,
you got to
whoops.
kind of go work on it. But Fred Shoemaker said something interesting to me. He said, "Why does your mind have to tell your body what it already knows how to do?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was, during COVID, I was doing these walk runs probably 6 days a week. And there's this one hill by my house where I would run up it, and that would be my my peak of my heartbeat
Right.
right there. And I can remember thinking about all this stuff when I was doing it. And then as the weeks went by, I actually was more in body and just doing it. and actually allowing my body just to do what it knew what to do versus
Mm-hmm.
trying to, okay, tell my body what it's supposed to do. And
Right.
it's really, the target is the leap of faith. When you look at the target and you visualize the putt, it's just let it go to that picture.
Yep. Get out of your own way. That's why, I always joke with people that second guy's really good, isn't he?
Yeah, he
Um,
is.
and I'd say that I always joke that my second guy is still on tour. At the first guy, we get in our own way. And the second guy, we throw the ball down. You dummy junior, you know how to do this. And it goes perfect. And it's like, why didn't I do that the first time? Because it didn't allow it up between the ears. And that's, it's just,
I think the mental game is something everybody thinks, well, I'll get to that when I get the physical better.
right.
Let me work on the physical and work on this. And, there really is a way to play. I had a young lady here yesterday that I worked with for 3 hours, and I was trying to explain to her there's a training mindset, there's things you can work on.
Mm-hmm.
When you go play, I don't want you having more than one backswing thought and one forward swing thought. If you're thinking more than that, you're thinking more than I want you to. And if you're
Sure.
working on 3 or 4 things, you got to make a choice back there in your think box, as the Vision
Mhm.
54 girls say. You got to
Yeah.
get back there and say, okay, I'm choosing. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you don't choose when you walk into the ball, what happens? It's going
Yeah.
to get chosen for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and certain people are wired. Some people are the mechanical mindset where they can
Right, right.
have a million things going on and they're perfectly happy because that's their way of going through their routine, if you will, whatever. And then you have the field players where
Right.
you give them, if they have more than one thought, it's not going to be pretty. So
Now, Nick
just,
Faldo seemed to be someone that could think about a lot of things and still perform.
mm-hmm.
He
Yep.
seemed to be that way. Payne Stewart, he was a free bird.
Yeah. Paul Azinger,
What do you
Fred
mean? I
Cup.
got to run a routine every time?
Yeah. 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 He'd be like, Junior, no.
But I think a lot of people, it would do them a lot of good to really get a routine. It's something you want to practice because that putt you have that matters the most to you, let's say it's on 18 for the money with your buddies,
Right.
that you really got to just run your routine with that same timing that you have
Mm-hmm.
and walk up and hit it. And I just don't think a lot of people do that enough. I know back in 1982, I actually made a decision that I was not going to hit a putt without running my routine. And it's a real discipline, isn't it, to
It is.
practice like you want to play in the tournament.
Well, and that's how you have to practice. If you want to get better on the course, you have to practice the right way. And, I tell people and when it comes to putting, people will say, well, how much time should I spend practicing? Some people can handle longer time than others, but typically I'll say, don't putt for more than 30 minutes. If you're putting more than 30 minutes, you're going to start going through the motions, and the practice that you just did is going to be all for naught because you're going to develop bad habits. Your mindset's going to wander. You can focus for shorter periods of time. Think about the amount of time you have to focus on a shot. It's not very long. It's a few seconds. So it's not like we're trying to build up this endurance where I have to focus for long periods of time. No, we want to, in between shots, in between hitting shots and putts, you allow yourself to, think about other things. I worked with Deborah Graham a lot on tour when I played, and Deborah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
she would say to me, when you're out there playing and if you're having a bad day, if your head is down and you're walking with your head down, you're thinking about what's already happened behind you. And if your head is up and you're looking up, tops of trees, you're thinking more positively, looking toward the future, and not dwelling on, I can't believe I doubled that last hole or whatever, or I 3-putted or whatever it was. Keeping the head up was just a simple thing because you see, people walking with their head down. It's not good mojo. It's not emoting, giving out any good positive energy at all. So
Right.
walking with the head up is key. and just being able to relax in between shots. So many people can't. And then they get finished with the round and they wonder why they're exhausted. And they go home and they fall down on the couch and they can't believe how worn out they are.
Well, that's because they grinded for 4.5 hours.
Yep.
I got a new book coming out called The Journeyman. Should be out in the next month or two.
Awesome.
And I have all my notes from working with Bob Rotella, Dick Coop, and Fred Shoemaker. And I remember reading in there recently how Rotella had told me that he didn't want, once I closed the locker and left the club, he didn't want me thinking about golf until I got back to the golf course the next day so I could be refreshed. And he really didn't even want me thinking about it much in between shots. And so that's hard to do, though.
Yeah, I know you, though. When you got off the golf course and went back to your room, you pulled out your guitar and were playing. So I know you had a vice. You had a vice.
Yeah, I had something to get away from it, which was a great way to get away from it. We got you a guitar. We got you a Fender guitar.
I know. I got hooked when we went to that Pink Floyd concert in Birmingham, Alabama. It was done.
Yeah, it was done. Well, Dave, it's always great to catch up with you. It's always great to have you on the show. And, if somebody wants to get in touch with Dave, there he is. He's won twice on the Corn Ferry Tour. And you can follow him on Twitter at DSJR1. That's Dave Stockton Jr. 1. And I'd like to thank my sponsors, Titleist, FootJoy, the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club Orlando, and the Red Sky Golf Club in Vail, Colorado. So, Junior, always great to have you. I think it's great what you're doing with the back nine greens, and I know you and your brother Ronnie and your dad, Dave Stockton, you've done a lot of great work with the tour players and with the putting and the short game, and keep it up, my friend.
Thanks, Larry. It's always great being on your show, and you take care and enjoy that tough summer up there in Colorado.
I will. I'm not going to sweat too much.
Take care, my friend.
You too.